good evening, or whatever time it is where you are. This is Channel 9 News. I'm Be Brief. In this edition, we are talking with B of Mama Needs to Read Romance. Hello, B. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
Hey. So I'll start with a question. You recently did a My Favorite Books of Fall video.
Right.
In that video, you hadn't finished all of your fall books yet, and you stated that there was a chance that your top 10 could change. Isn't that right?
What?
Now that you have actually finished reading all the books for fall, we here at Channel 9 News heard that you changed your mind about your top 10. Isn't that true?
I remember that.
Is it? Answer the question.
Uh-huh.
What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, I just want to say, hi, my name is B. Welcome to my channel.
Oh, no, I know what you're doing. You can't get out of this interview.
Mama needs to read romance. And get out of this interview. Go, 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 go. Hey there, we are finally here with my November wrap-up. I actually have a couple things to share really quickly before we get into my wrap-up because I want you to know while it's still December. I've been reading a lot of Christmas romance. I've got 3 cream of the crop to tell you about in case you're looking for something else to read before the end of the month. I got 2 sweets and a spicy for you. Chloe Lease, The Mistletoe Motive. That was a more spicy one. I adored it. It was fantastic. I listened to it. Jacob Morgan and Aaron Mallon, are you kidding? Oh my gosh, so good. So highly recommend that one. The 2 sweets that I just fell absolutely in love with based on your guys' recommendations actually. Mimi Matthews' Holiday by Gaslight. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I was tearing up. If you get a chance, see if you can read it before this holiday season is over. As well as Orchids and Mistletoe by Kate Bateman. The novella was sweet, so good. I was swooning so hard for those 3 specifically. And I can't wait to tell you more, obviously, in my December wrap up. One other thing about December, I have heard through the grapevine that the Stuff Your Kindle days begin December 26th. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But now let's talk about my stats for the month of November. I read 11 historical romances, 5 contemporary romances, 3 cozy fantasies, 1 cozy mystery, 1 YA romance, 1 alien romance, and 1 romantasy, aka romantic fantasy. And of those books, 7 of them were ARCs or advanced readers copies for a total of 24 books. I was sick a little bit at the beginning of the month. Of course, like the beginning of every month, somebody in our house is sick. It gave me a chance to read in bed. It was kind of glorious, I'll admit. Anyway, moving on. I read 3 6-star books. I know, 3 6-star books. This was a great reading month. I know I say that every month, but it was. Moving on. I read 4 4.5-star books. I read 7 4-star books. I read 4 3.5-star books, 4 3-star books, and 2 2.5-star books. And I read a slew of new to me authors as well. Elizabeth Hoyt, Lauren Elliott, Anna Bennett, Julianne Lindsay, Jenny L. Howe, Mira Platt, Olivia Dade, S.E. Wendell, Maggie Anderson, Erin LaRosa, Lyrone Riley, Maeve Grayson, and Jackie Dalecki. And I had fun with, I think, all of them. Oh, okay. I see, I've tried not to get too excited when I start because I feel like I always do that, but then I can't help myself. Okay, so let's talk about my first 6-star. Check and Mate. Wait, I gotta put it up. Okay, that's better. Check and Mate by Allie Hazelwood. I got this as an ARC. I was so excited. I read it early, but it came out in mid-November. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's a YA book about chess. Do you know how Allie Hazelwood is so good with the tension? She's got the sexual tension, but then she's also got the tension in these chess tournaments. I was riveted. I was engaged by the entire ensemble cast. I found the slowly unveiling of the backgrounds of our male and female leads to be so gripping. I was dying to see what was going to happen. The epilogue was phenomenal. I was standing up and cheering for no reason at all since no one could see me, but it was tremendous. It's one of those books that it's difficult to put down and do other things in life. It was just so good. If you like Allie Hazelwood, and like me, sometimes the spice gets a smidge overwhelming, this book is perfect for you because she does tone down the spice, but I'm telling you, it was still spicy. The chemistry was off the charts. It was just phenomenal. So 6 stars. Okay, so here's where I got into trouble. This is what prompted my intro. So I had not finished Scandalous Desires when I filmed my favorite books of fall video. I had no idea I was going to love it as much as I did. So I've got that book here. This is book 3 of the Maiden Lane series, which I've been enjoying immensely. And then this is book 2. These are the books that I've been talking to you about. I know I haven't done like a formal haul with these yet. Or did I? I have not done a formal haul. They've got the fake out here where you think that it's a step back, but then it's just not. But then guess what? It is. Okay, so let's talk about this 6-star book, Scandalous Desires. We have Silence. That's her name, Silence. And we have Mickey. He's charming Mickey O'Connor. He's a river pirate. I don't know how this worked for me as well as it did. He's one of those rakes that just gets away with it. There's few that I really like, but he's one of them. He's so handsome. He's got a dark past, and he's a bad boy when this book starts. In fact, their story actually begins in book 1 when or we can look at this one. He takes all the cargo off of her husband's ship. She decides to talk to him to convince him to give it back because her husband was going to have to go to prison. So he says to her, well, you got to spend the night with me. And it's not what you think. However, everybody thinks the wrong thing, including her husband. She also winds up with a baby left on the doorstep. Well, Mickey decides that he needs to protect this baby, and the only way to do that is to have her stay at his palace. It's kind of like Captor Captive. It's just so good. It's like, I guess it's like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, except he is also the beauty. Oh my gosh, it's just so good. It was so spicy, so emotional. Both of the characters, the growth, oh my gosh, the way that they bring out the best in each other. I was dying. This book is ranking up there with, again, The Magic and The Duchess Deal as one of my top historical romances of all time. It's got the angst, the danger. It's got everything. It's so good. Okay, I'm gonna stop. All right, it's my last 6-star. I fell in love with this book so hard. I did not buy it. And now I kind of regret it because then I would have it up. It's called Halfling by S.E. Wendell. Oh my goodness. I didn't know how much I loved low fantasy until I read this book. We have Oric. He's half orc, half human. His mother was captured by the orcs and she was forced to be the bride of this awful orc chief. Well, Oric is the product of that. And one day another woman gets brought to the camp as like a gift, and he just can't see that happen to another human woman. He's got this incredible heart, and he's always just been on the fringes, this big emotional man who just wants to share love but hasn't ever felt love of his own. He rescues this woman, Sorcha, and as they head on this road trip, I love a good road trip, they fall madly in love. He is one of the best sit and roll heroes I have ever read. There's a lot of tension and chemistry through the first half, and then midway point, the rest of the book, it's pretty spicy in parts, but it's imbued with that emotion that I love. It's moving the plot along. I was here for it. I wanted to see what happened, but I really did not want it to end. And I know she's got another book in the Monstrous World series in the works. We're gonna see these characters again, and I'm so thankful. I'm also gonna be reading all of S.E. Wendell's backlist too, because her writing was gorgeous. It was atmospheric. The settings were beautiful. Pastoral scenes. We're in the woods. We're in camps. We're in tightly packed villages on market days. It was phenomenal. 6 stars. I could go on and on forever, but I won't. I loved it so much. So I also had the chance to listen to Bookshops and Bonedust, which is actually the prequel to Legends and Lattes. I love what one of you guys was saying. They called Legends and Lattes An Orc Opens a Starbucks, and Bookshops and Bonedust An Orc Opens a Barnes & Noble. That was great. I can't remember who said it, but I want to thank you for the laugh again. That was great. So initially, I was actually very disappointed as I was listening to this book, narrated by Travis Baldree, who also wrote the book, because it didn't have Tandri, who is Viv's great love from Legends and Lattes. But obviously, she meets Tandri in Legends and Lattes. Now, Viv does find love with a gnome, believe it or not. And yes, she does help someone open a bookshop. There is danger. I actually thought the danger was even more dramatic than in the first one. I feel like Travis Baldree did a great job of still taking the cozy and the excitement and really fitting them together nicely. So you really do get, for the most part, a cozy read that I didn't always find myself paying attention to. I would forget to listen. That's kind of why I couldn't give it a full 5 stars. But otherwise, I really enjoyed this sense again of community, of people coming together, and of Viv taking a place and making it better than it was when she first got there. Viv, of course, is an orc. She is a mercenary, a hunter, and in the course of this book, Bookshops and Bonedust, she is still a mercenary, but she's been injured, so she's working on healing. But I found the overall idea, which I won't give away because it was so touching. It was beautiful. The epilogue was fantastic. It does tease more to come. I can't wait to see what the orc will open next book. So I wound up picking the Cider Shop Rules when I did my Cozy Fall Mysteries vlog not too long ago. It feels like a long time ago. And it's by Julianne Lindsay. I'm so thankful I picked it because I don't know that I've ever enjoyed a cozy mystery quite so much. It absolutely also felt like a romance because the romance that's been developed in books 1 and 2 of the Cider Shop Mystery series was definitely coming to fruition in this book. She actually has 2 potential suitors in this story. There's real danger as well. And of course, those cozy fall feels. It really brings everything you could possibly want as a reader who enjoys cozy, sweet, romance, 2 handsome men. And I'm very excited to read more from Julianne Lindsay, who also writes as Jacqueline Frost, by the way. If you're looking for more to read in this month, you may have seen in one of my other videos that she did at least 4 books so far in her Christmas Tree Shop mysteries. Okay, now we've got book 2 in the Maiden Lane series, Notorious Pleasures. And I can show you the step back. Again, we have, it looks like there's not, and then there is. And it is heavenly. So let's talk about this one. One of my new favorite rakes, Griffin Redding. Again, I just don't know how she does it. Elizabeth Hoyt, you got me under the spell of these rakes. This is one of my favorite tropes I've learned, the forbidden love, because Hero is supposed to marry Griffin's brother, but they just can't help themselves every time they're alone. Their chemistry is unmatched. Griffin is kind of a bad guy, and we see the character arc of Griffin as he tries to make himself worthy of Hero. Well done, Elizabeth Hoyt. I don't know how you do it. So let's talk about Devi's Distraction, which is Ice Home Book 6 from Ruby Dixon. Everybody I know, when I said I was going to be reading Devi's Distraction, they were like, oh my gosh, I love it so much. And they weren't wrong. It was tremendous. I think this was the best representation of an ensemble cast that I've seen in the Ice Home series, which, as you may be aware, intermixes with the Ice Planet Barbarian series quite a bit. But this one was spectacular. I enjoyed Bridget and Atem, who I'm sure their book is coming soon because they were in this book a lot. I'm like, whose book is this? This was all about Devi and Nadek. Devi is a scientist, and she's really misunderstood by the rest of the community because she just looks at the world so differently from the rest of them. And it was actually really interesting to see Not Hoth from her eyes. But also we have Nadek, who is still recovering after the loss of half of his leg. He doesn't feel whole, and he's sick of people also looking at him differently. Well, she sees his leg not as anything that's representative of him as a person, but as a problem to solve in a scientific way. She helps him. I don't want to give too much more away, but I'll say there's danger, there's a daring rescue, there is some spice, there's a lot of emotion. It was fun as all get out. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to head back to Ice Home soon. So now let's start talking about my 4-star books. Here's Murder in a Cup by Lauren Elliott. This was another arc that I got that came out in the month of November, and it was very interesting. It's book 2 of the Crystals and Curiosities mysteries. The reason it's titled that way is because not only is Shay a tea shop owner, she's also got psychic abilities. She can read things from stones, and she can tell people's fortune with tea leaves, which was really neat to read about. I was scratching my head a little bit because she loves plants and she uses them in her teas, but she has a table that she's just realized is full of plants that are actually deadly poisonous. And she goes, gosh, I sure hope none of those end up in the tea. You'll never guess how someone dies in this book. The majority of it is Shay with her good friends trying to figure out who poisoned the person who passed away in her shop. And it does happen on page, which is unusual for a cozy mystery, I believe. But we have her adorable dog who is like her familiar, as if she's like a witch, and this dog knows everything. And Liam, who is her love interest, which he was cute, and I enjoyed him too. It was very interesting, very different. 4 stars. And my next 4-star is actually book 4 of the Maiden Lane series, Thief of Shadows by Elizabeth Hoyt. We have Winter Makepeace. Yes, that's a name, folks. He runs a children's orphanage in the inner city, St. Giles. And then we have Isabel. She is a very wealthy lady. She wants to help this orphanage. And one of the ways she's been tasked with doing that is to make Winter Makepeace the kind of gentleman who can mix in society and hopefully bring more funds in for the orphanage. So the two of them wind up working together. Winter's not thrilled initially, but the two of them have a bit of chemistry. There's something else going on that's huge that I can only tease to you. Winter has a hidden identity. Isabel isn't aware. She does find herself very drawn to a masked man. He's got a mission that he needs to solve. There was, again, a great deal of spice. The only reason I wasn't able to rate this higher is because I found Winter to be sort of aloof and a little cold, stern, if you will. He's just not my type of love interest, but he is an incredible hero in the normal definition of the word. So 4 stars. Okay, so let's talk about a book that they emailed me and they were like, hey, I bet you'd like this book. And I was like, I don't have time, but okay, since you asked. And then I wound up having time because I was sick. So I read the book in 2 days in bed and it was fun. It Takes a Rake by Anna Bennett. This is book 3, I believe the final book in the Rogues to Lovers series. I'd never read Anna Bennett before. She's never come up, but I really enjoyed this. Now, I will have one caveat for you. Kitty, our heroine, is a little grating on the nerves. She did get to me a little bit. She has very high expectations. She's not always nice. But then we have Leo, who is willing to grovel. If you love groveling, this is a great book for you. Another reason I loved this book so intensely, it's set at the beach. It is beautiful. I want to read the first 2 books in the series because this ensemble cast, the girlfriends, they're fabulous. I want to see them each find their happily ever after. There were things I've never seen before that Anna Bennett did in this book. It was very inventive. This book is coming out in January, by the way, so keep your eyes peeled for it. This is an enemies to lovers. Leo and Kitty have known each other since they were teens. They were both apprenticing for an architect. They have driven each other crazy for a long time. Leo just came back to town. There is a big competition coming up to design a building for the town that's going to bring in more tourists. So both Leo and Kitty, as well as others, are in this competition to see who can win. Now, she needs his help and he's willing to give it to her, but can they get along? Oh, yes, they can. And then some. And maybe we find out that he's been secretly pining. It was a lot of fun. All right, now I'm finished. Oh, The Friend Zone, a book I love and hate at the same time. Obviously, I gave this 4 stars. This was my second read. I know people that hate the ending. I know people that hate this book in general. One of the big secondary characters does die, and it is painful to get through. Also painful, again, we have another woman, Kristen, who is stubborn to a fault. A lot of people don't like Kristen. I can kind of understand her, but yes, she does get on my nerves. And then we have Josh. He's a fireman. He is the perfect man. I love how Abby Jimenez writes her cinnamon roll heroes. This guy's no exception. He falls hard for her, but she has a boyfriend who is serving overseas. So the two of them try to keep their feelings to themselves as they fall for one another in this forced proximity romance until they just can't deny it anymore. I did like it. I'm rereading all of the Abby Jimenez books in preparation for her book Just for the Summer, which comes out in April, because I'd like to do a whole series and I just want to make sure they're all fresh in my mind. Oh my gosh, I didn't even put her books up. That's better. She is one of my favorite contemporary authors of all time. Anyway, moving on again. Let's talk about Never Keep a Secret at Christmas by Maggie Anderson. Rachel and I both read it for our historical romance reading vlog that we did for week 1 of Vlogmas. It's a Kindle Unlimited. It was really sweet. We have Alice who just wants to spend the holidays with her family, but it can't happen. So she winds up developing this lovely friendship with an older gentleman who lives next door, and he's estranged from his grandson. Well, she decides to write a letter to Hugh, the grandson, explaining that she's a little worried about his grandfather. So Hugh comes out to rural England at Christmas time, and he and Alice fall madly in love with one another immediately. So if you like insta love, this is great for you. This was all kinds of sweet. It brought those Christmassy feels. I really enjoyed it immensely, and I think I need to read more Maggie Anderson. Well, I haven't brought up Iron Flame yet, which I know a lot of people have been talking about. It came out in November. We have Violet at the beginning of this story. She is now a second year at Basgiath, which is the military academy in this fantastical land where she is training to be a dragon rider. Beyond that, I don't think there's a whole lot that I can say. without ruining anything. I really enjoyed listening to it pretty much every single day from November 7th when it came out until the end of the month. I like rationed it out so I'd have a little bit each day. I still really enjoyed this book. It brought the adventure, the danger. There were scenes that just killed me, so emotional. Not everybody makes it out of the book alive, which I'm sure if you've read Fourth Wing, you're not going to be surprised. It was way spicier than the first book. I had no idea it was going to be as spicy as it was. Wow. I think that this book is a little confusing, which is why I gave it 4 stars. And thankfully, I was able to ask Joanna many questions as I was reading. I was so thankful. I didn't even ask her to buddy read. We wound up sort of inadvertently buddy reading together, which turned out great. If you can buddy read it, I highly recommend it because there's a lot to talk about. I do tend to get lost with like high fantasy because that's just the way my life is right now. I don't have the brain power to keep track of all the different lands and the different leaders of the lands. Like, I'm just not very good at that. That's not my skill set in my current season of life when people keep interrupting me every 5 seconds. The only other bone I had to pick with this book was there was a lot of arguing. It felt a little contrived just to keep certain things from happening too soon. Overall, I really did enjoy this. There were scenes I will never forget that I thought were even better than scenes in the first book. If you didn't get a chance to watch the live show, which as I'm filming this is in the future, but by the time you see this, it will have been in the past. It's on XO Joe's channel, and I think the live show will shed even more light on some of the things that happened in the book. Well, now I want to talk about Next to You by Hannah Bonham Young. This is book 2 in the next series. I wound up giving this 4 stars. I was expecting to enjoy it more than the first book in the series, but I actually liked the first book in the series more. I think I have an issue with the friends with benefits trope just because they're purposely going forward, making sure that they don't have feelings. And for me, it's all about the feelings. So when there's like a friends with benefits thing going on, I'm just not as excited about it. Also, Lane, our main character, she has a lot of anxiety, and I found myself sometimes feeling some anxiety along with her. She has a lot of grief that she's dealing with. One day, she decides to buy a school bus and convert it into a home. Well, this brings Matt into the picture. She majorly friend zoned him after kissing him on New Year's Eve a few years ago. And we get the sense that Matt might be carrying a secret torch for her. He is a teddy bear hero for sure. There were some really deep scenes, especially with Matt's family. They are an incredible group of people who really seem to know what's important in life and played a huge part in helping Lane heal, which I thought was lovely. The love scenes in this were kind of a miss for me. It didn't carry the tenderness that I felt from Matt during most of the book. So no matter what, I am excited to read more from Hannah Bonham Young in the future. So let's talk about my first 3.5 star, Wicked Intentions, which is book 1 of the Maiden Lane series by Elizabeth Hoyt. Can you tell I read a lot of Elizabeth Hoyt in November? So here's another classic fake out in this series. It looks like there's a step back, but then it doesn't have the cutaway. So you think, oh, there's no step back, but then there's a gorgeous, gorgeous step back. I am making it my personal mission to find all of the books in this series, and I think there's 12. At least. There might be more than that. I love these. I love these. Okay, sorry. I was really impressed with, I'll show you this part. I was really impressed with how well Elizabeth Hoyt is able to bring up an ensemble cast. She sets the stage. We get the seedy underbelly quite a bit in St. Giles. I don't really like gruesome, but if you're tired of ballrooms and teas and you want the darker side of London, this is a great book for you. Lazarus, our hero, is constantly stepping over animals and people who may or may not be dead. Like many, many times. I'm like, oh, what, again? Do we need to do this again? Anyway, we have Lazarus. He has quite a dark past and temperance. She has sort of a hero complex, which he tries to break down. I really did not like Lazarus at all in the first half of this book. He needs her help and she needs his money. So she decides to help him try to figure out a mystery that he's attempting to solve in the streets of St. Giles. So she goes along with him, but quickly their chemistry starts to become overpowering. He flips the script about midway through and becomes a much better person to the point where I almost didn't believe it. It just seemed so drastic. drastic of a change. So I don't know how believable that was, but I was really impressed with how frequently they checked in with one another, whether it was during a love scene or not, to see how each of them was feeling. They went more psychologically deep than I think I've ever seen in a historical romance. I was really impressed by that. I have always stated I don't feel comfortable with any kind of like BDSM. It makes me very nervous. Like I'm just worried someone's gonna get hurt. I don't like those scenes at all. There is an element of that in this book, and I don't know how she does it, but she made it so emotional that it still felt compelling. I can't believe I'm saying that. I was very impressed, especially with the second half of the book, once I started to like Lazarus more. I can't say more because there's a big mystery. Actually, there's so many mysteries, and this is where the subplot with Silence and the charming Mickey O'Connor, the pirate, began. A kind of an all over the place roller coaster of a book. But I wound up being thoroughly impressed with Elizabeth Hoyt and ready to read the rest of the series. So I finally got to read an Olivia Dade in the month of November, and I was so excited. So I thought I would start with her first book, Teach Me, from There's Something About Marysburg, book 1. I didn't find it to be super gripping, but I do want to applaud Olivia Dade for making age, both of these characters are in their 40s, and some jiggling attractive. We have two teachers, hence the title, Teach Me. Initially, Rose, our heroine, does not like Martin because Martin is new on the scene and he is threatening her teaching schedule. He's taking some of the classes that she wants. She really doesn't want to like him, but over the course of the year, they start working together. They develop this beautiful, very realistic friendship, which then develops into more as they help one another shoulder their burdens. It did feel a little cookie cutter, but I did enjoy it. So there we have the 3.5 stars. I got the chance to read another book with a curvy heroine in it. This one was an ARC that came out last month, On the Plus Side by Jenny L. Howe. There were things that I really liked about it. It's definitely women's fiction, but in a way, I actually like that better because this is about Everly's journey to love herself. Not necessarily just to find love. She has two potential suitors. One is the hot guy she works with and has been pining after for a very long time, and the other one is the gruff and often grumpy cameraman who's filming her for a show called On the Plus Side, which is essentially a what not to wear type show. If you've ever seen that one, I used to love that show, for people who are plus size. It's all about stepping outside of one's comfort zone, taking the bull by the horns, and living one's best life. That's what the show's about. That's what the book's about. This book was definitely spicy, and she does have a chance for love. But again, this was mostly about Everly's story. She has a lot of hang-ups that she needs to get through, and thankfully it's not about her weight either, which I really enjoyed. Her mother was the worst, and she could be very triggering, I think, for some people. But overall, I found this to be a very interesting read. So after reading Halfling, I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I'm into now. And of course, Amazon's so great at recommending, like, oh, did you like this? Well, then you'll like this. So they recommended Prince of Beasts by Lyon Riley. It's a novella. I thought, I've got time. I'll read that. I will love it because I love these things now. Okay, so I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. We have a human queen named Diane who is forced to marry Prince Jackal. Jackal is human on top, furry legs and hooves on the bottom, and there's something else below the belt that is also different. If you get my meaning. I had mixed feelings about this. He is very sweet, and yet he sort of threatens to take over her lands if she won't marry him. There's also some questions about art that each of them has that sort of links one to the other that's never resolved, which I think, even though this was a novella, I feel like we could have learned a little bit about those things. There was time. I found this to be a beautifully told fantasy tale. I felt like I was there. The writing was good, but it did leave me with more questions than answers, especially about the anatomy. Anyway. So my first 3-star was Plot Twist. It was another advanced reader's copy that I got a chance to read. I was really excited about this, had high hopes, and it was good, but it wasn't nearly as good as I was hoping that it would be. We have Sophie. She's a romance writer who has never been in love, and she is now unable to come up with her next book, so she's in big trouble. With the help of social media, she's going to find everyone she's ever been in love with, and she's pansexual, so her previous partners run the gamut. It was very interesting to read. But she really does need help with her social media presence. Enter the Zach Morris character, if you will, Dash. He's a former teenage child star. Now he's all grown up. He is her landlord. He lives next door, but he's primarily working on his sobriety. A lot of this book was very mature. A lot of this book dealt with his sobriety, alcoholism. He's trying to fight having a relapse, but he has a very dysfunctional family, which we get to see a great deal of. Dash agrees to help Sophie with her social media presence if she's willing to help him write a speech for his father's award that's coming up. These two try their hardest not to fall for one another, but they can't fight it, and it is very steamy. A lot of this was sort of difficult to get through, and the spice didn't carry the emotional punch that I was really hoping that it would. So that is why I say 3 stars. I was so excited when I heard that Mary Jo Putney was going to be having a new book published in November. So I had to request the ARC and I got it. Silver Lady, it's part of Dangerous Gifts Book 1. So there's going to be a whole series. And this is about a found family of individuals. They're all gifted in like psychic abilities and that type of thing. Our hero, Bran, gets called out to the country one day when his biological father discovers that Bran is his only heir. And his father is horrible. So we don't feel too bad that he's dying, I guess. He needs Bran to become his heir. Bran goes out there for that reason, but also because he has a sense that he needs to be there. Enter, through the forest, in the middle of the night, a mysterious woman who also has special powers. He takes her in. She's not even really able to talk. She's had her brain scrambled because there's nefarious characters who have been trying to use her gifts for their own benefit. Bran takes good care of her. She feels safe. They start to fall in love, but he's got to be the gentleman because she's not quite got all of her wits about her, so he does fight his attraction to her quite a bit. He is such a gentleman. I love Mary Jo Putney. There was danger in the story. There is romance. It is very much written in the old school, not always tethered to reality. Things happen such as there were people breaking into Bran's home when he wasn't there, and our heroine escapes from the house, finds him, and he said, "Oh, good job escaping my house while people were breaking in. Let's have a picnic." Like, what do you mean, let's have a picnic? Someone's breaking into your house. I felt like I needed a little bit more explanation about the gifts too that these characters all had, but it was really fascinating to see them use their powers. The way that it was written, it was like a cozy historical romance. They go into great detail about the food and the drink and just being cozy in this house in the middle of the country. So that part was really fun, and I enjoyed this entire ensemble cast. Another Christmassy vlog I read towards the end of November was A Yuletide Yearning by Maeve Grayson, which was book 5.5 in the Highland Heroes series. Now this is on Kindle Unlimited if you want to try it out. It was a pirate, A Christmas Carol. We have a pirate who's basically Jack Sparrow, and he is a mess. There is a gal who lives in Pirates Cove who has been pining after him forever, but he's always considered her way too good for him, but she is so desperately in love with him. He's gonna throw it all away though until it's Christmas Eve and ghost pirates come and visit him in the night and convince him that he needs to try to work to get this gal. Could have used a little more meat to it, but I mean, I had a good time, so 3 stars. My last 3-star is Code of Joy by Jackie Delecki, which is book 10 of the Codebreakers series. This was a Christmas novella, supposedly. There wasn't a whole lot of Christmas in it. I was laughing though with the plot, although it wasn't written in a funny way. I wish Tessa Dare could get her hands on this plot because she would make it so funny. We have a gentleman who is a spy. He's getting his first mission. He's supposed to meet up with a French spy. Enter Joy. The poor thing's having a terrible day. She's all wet. She goes into the same inn, and he mistakes her for this French spy when he really should not have. It was neat to see the two of them sort of work together eventually to try to bring down the bad guys. And again, it wasn't written as compellingly as it could have been. Like, the idea sounds perfect, but the execution was a little off. But yes, I did still have a good time. Then let's talk about my 2.5-star All I Want for Christmas by Mira Platt. This actually was pretty cute, but it was insta love and I just didn't buy it at all. It didn't make sense because they had just met and they're like, "But I love you and I love you." No. It doesn't make sense. There was also some brawling, some terrible, terrible characters, which she has as friends for no particular reason. But it did bring those Christmassy feels. I was enchanted when I was first reading it. He's a self-made man, and he just tries to show her that he's good enough for her, basically. It's just one of those insta-love situations that you find sometimes in these novellas, because there's just not a lot of time. Last and definitely least, my last 2.5-star book. It's Maiden Lane Book 5, Lord of Darkness. I really had high hopes for this book. I was very excited at the cliffhanger at the end of book 4 where we see Griffin coming back on the scene. They upended some of the things that we believed about the masked character who we had been seeing quite a bit in books 1 through 4. We have the hero of the streets. They're trying to capture these people that keep taking young girls off the streets and forcing them into sweatshops. And that was also something that's happened in previous books. So that felt a little bit lather, rinse, repeat. Like we're doing the same thing again. We're trying to uncover the same ring that we already basically fixed in the last book. But now there's a new leader. We also have Godric. He has never recovered from the passing of his wife. And Megs, he married Megs because she was pregnant with another man's baby. That man was killed. And so Godric is also trying to figure out who killed Megs's husband. But now, of course, Godric is her new husband. Well, Megs has decided that she wants a baby. So they make a deal that doesn't quite make sense to me. The deal is he will lie with her every night to get her with child if she leaves after it's over, because she wants to find out who killed her first husband. It is spicy, but it didn't feel very emotional. I just never grew to really love either of these characters, but it really was overall a very interesting storyline. I loved what they did with the Caped Crusader. I do look forward to more books in the series. Well, that was it. Can you believe it? 24 books. I need to start doing the videos again where it's the mid-month wrap-up and the end of the month wrap-up. If I'm gonna read this many books, I had no idea I was gonna read 24 books in November. Oh, what a happy problem though, right? What did you read in November that you loved or didn't love? Just share whatever you feel like sharing in the comments below. I know we would all love to see. Did you have anything else to say about some of the books I reviewed? I'd love to know your thoughts. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying whatever you're reading, regardless of what month it is. Until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.